A lot of times companies, they fail because they found a problem, but
start with desktop research, get the desktop research done, understand, is this a good market? Is it dying?
you really do want to try and find the niche that people are looking at. So you can go to a tool called like answerthepublic.com and you can see what
You want to probably be getting to a point where you're having maybe 10 people say the same thing, right? Validating the problems.
how much time or how much money do you think this would kind of save you? Well, we already spend $50,000 a year on these CS tools and they don't provide this value. People trust products that say exactly what you do.
We are back with another episode of the Do As I Say, Not As I Did podcast, where we answer real questions and sometimes insane questions from Reddit about growing your startup. And today we're joined by Spencer Shulem, the CEO of BuildBetter, an insanely popular AI-powered product assistant used by over 25,000 teams. But this is not Spencer's first business. He's also started other businesses in the past with millions of users. And one thing I found out today, which I love, is he's even started a blog when he was 13 that had millions of views, which I don't know what I would have done with that kind of attention when I was 13, but it would not have been positive. So really, Spencer can just work about anything out. Spencer and I have had, I don't know, so many conversations, which are kind of like this podcast just on our own. So I'm super excited to get him on the show today, but we'll jump into it straight away. So Spencer, first thing, tell me, why do most companies suck at product?
Oof. I think I think like suck is probably like looking at the company through a negative lens. I would say like, why are some successful companies have products that people don't like? I think that's a really interesting perspective because I think the reality is there's a lot of different types of successful companies, and sometimes it's not how good the product is. So like you can have a really successful company that, you know, just delivers a great service or delivers some inherent value, but like the product really sucks. I think those are the most fascinating things. Like when people are still using or paying for a service that they can't, it's not a monopoly, but they're like still paying for it and the product sucks. That's fucking wild. Like that's like, holy shit. Like what did they do right? Where they figured out the things that they needed to do right, where people are still paying for their product, even though like the inherent thing like really sucks. So it's just, I think it's just a matter of priorities. Like if you have a successful company and your product sucks, it's probably because your product isn't what you're really selling. And it's probably some service or something around it that just delivers so much fucking value that you don't even really need to care about the product. Sometimes you have a monopoly, and that's probably like the people that people complain about. It's like, why is my electric bill a pain in the ass to pay for? Like, yeah, there's a monopoly and they don't really have to try.
But another more succinct answer could be that they don't use BuildBetter.
Well, we always try and tell. I mean, we build products for product teams. Product teams are inherently usually part of companies that care about product, but like there are a lot of customers we'll just never serve because they just don't care enough. And it's not for like it's easy for me to judge them and say you are a bad company for not caring about product. But the reality is like they don't need to. Like they could be an engineering led company. They could be a marketing led company. They could be like all these things. Like is, you know, Procter and Gamble gonna give a shit about a tool like BuildBetter? Probably not. But like Apple would. So like there's these different types of companies that I think do just have different priorities. But yeah.
Yeah, I think I had this question a lot, you know, like, and I think it just comes down to like, how much value are you providing? And like Craigslist, for example, like when I was living in the States, I couldn't fucking believe that platform exists. Like, it's the most garbage UX I've ever experienced. Like, I don't know if it's been updated since its first release. It's crazy because in Australia we don't really have it, so I never really used it. And then when I used it, I got a lot of value out of it. I kept going back, but it was so hard to use, and the product interface was terrible. But there's so much value. I was like, "Fuck it, I'll do it." So
you have to. I mean,
yeah.
like it's like airlines. It's like there's so many products that are so bad. Why does anyone fly Ryanair when people hate Ryanair to their life? Like they'll hate it and they'll still go back. It's like a terrible X. It's like, well, because you still care about a cheaper flight and you'll do anything to get a cheaper flight. So like the second you stop caring about a cheaper flight is when they'll start prioritizing other things. But until that changes, you're just not going to have anyone who changes anything about their product or service.
Yeah. All right. I love it. Well, let's jump into the Reddit questions today. All right. Now, this is actually mega unconventional. I've actually never done this before, and I didn't tell you beforehand either. I told you they're all Reddit questions. This first question is my question. So I was searching for a question on Reddit that kind of like matched mine, but nothing was as similar. So this is just a genuine question I have about my business that I want your opinion on. And then I'm going to give my own opinion on it too, like I always do. So, all right, this question is called, how do you validate an idea? So, like, this from me. So I think we have a great product. I've got to scale up. We've got a great product. It's continuing to grow well, but we continue to face similar challenges as we've always faced with it. We've got long sales cycle. We've got complex sales. So, it's very hard to get sales off the line. It takes a long time. Once you're in, you're in. Um, we have like big enterprise sales. So, multi 100K deals. Um, Now we have an idea for a new product feature or a new product or a new feature that's going to have a different buyer in the same companies. So right now we sell to this, person A, but now we're going to sell to person B who's got a separate budget. The sales cycle is going to be much faster. The contract size will be much lower, but the idea is going to be shooting for market penetration. So we get mass market penetration and then we upsell our current product. The additional context here is that we're an enterprise SaaS in higher education. So we have been asked for this functionality quite a bit, but I want to validate it really well before I chase this idea properly. So how do I validate this idea? And as always, this question is from me, but I made up a fake Reddit name today, Money Please. So this question is from Money Please.
Give me money.
Exactly.
I think um, validation, particularly for like a tangential service, usually should come from your customer, and then there's like a different distribution that maybe you're trying to validate. So like if your customers are coming to you saying like, hey, like for example, our product, we might have customer success people coming to us, which isn't our ICP, and they might say, we really want this product. So like then we're trying to understand, well, why do they want it? How do they want it? In what world could we sell it to them as an ICP? What does their budgets looks like? What does the distribution channel look like? How much overlap to the existing product that we have? But for us to go, and I think the word I often use for a lot of founders is like, do you have permission from your customers? Do you have permission from the market to do that? Because most of the time you don't. Like the market says, you haven't solved my problem yet. I don't want you to go and do something else. So like a lot of companies have permission from their customers to go on these journeys, like you have really goodwill. Like Apple could launch a headset and their customers will still buy it. But if their core product was shitty and failing and wasn't working and it was crashing, people would be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, fix the thing that you have before you go somewhere else. So there's a lot of that aspect from the market that you have to kind of think about, is like, do we have permission from our customers, either the new ones that we're targeting or the ones that we already have, to go and build something new, to go and like get something new? If you feel like you do, if you feel like there's like strong signals or signs there, then I would say it's a typical startup journey. You just have more resources behind you, you have better distribution. But it's, talking to those new customers, those ICPs, understanding what problems and issues that they have, and just kind of like working through a validation step of building an MVP, getting it into their hands and understanding if it solves a problem and iterating from there. I think the quintessential failures are, you have more resources, you might have more distribution, you have like a false sense of success, and you can push a product into a market that otherwise would have never adopted your product and never like had your product. Sometimes that's good. Like sometimes that's the whole point of your company, is to say, we're going to sell them, like, Clover, some of these other tools that kind of like were in the space, is like, we're going to launch a free product, we're going to get as much distribution as possible, and then once we're in them, in the in their companies or schools or whatever it might be, then we're going to upsell them to these other products and services that we otherwise just couldn't sell directly to them. So there is some sort of like different types of positioning, but I mean, the validation should always come from, are they willing to pay for it? Can they pay for it early? Are they willing to like work with you early on? Are they giving you a lot of feedback? I always say that the most validation is like, they don't know you, they have no incentive to use your product, and they're still using it. They are asking to pay for it, they want to pay for it. They're hitting you up after a user interview. Like if you talk to them for 25 minutes, you're like, yeah, that seems really cool, like I'd definitely like to try that, and then they never hit you up because that problem never comes up again in their life, versus they hit you up a day later and like, hey, what was the status of this, or when is this going to launch, or do you have a date, or can I be a beta tester, or how much is this going to cost? Like those are types of signs like, oh, there's something here, like there's something that people want here. um but again, it's, you know, when you think you know what you want to do and go, sometimes you ignore all those negative signs and you're just like, fuck it, like we'll just ship it and we'll figure it out on the way there. But I think like the real way to do it is just pretend like you're a startup again, just now you have access to customers and access to capital in easier ways. But
I
yeah.
guess like I totally agree with that, right? Like first of all, like permission, yeah, like if our platform fucking sucked, like and people were super unhappy, that would be an issue. So I think permission we can check off, but then I guess let's get real tactical, right? So if you were doing this for Build Better, you've got your PM tool, assume it's good, you want to now launch another cheaper tool for CS teams, you know? Like how like how many user interviews make sense, customer interviews make sense, right? Like that's absolutely on our roadmap to do that. At what point would you feel comfortable enough that you've like, cool, now we want to start building a proof of concept? Like, because for me, I'm thinking about like stage one, validate the market, like work out rough price points, understand what other people are trying to charge, um, and what the kind of growth rates are if there's any competitors in the space. Like obviously you need a bit of desktop research. Then we want to start speaking to users or customers who don't have the competitor platforms or do have the competitor platforms, understand what the challenges are, what the ROI is. Um, how many are like until you're like confident, like let's start building a proof of concept? Like are you thinking, obviously not one, right? But like, are you thinking like we should have at least 20 combos? Like what is like tactically what would you do?
I don't think there is there's definitely too little. I mean, like if you talk to like 3 or 5, it's probably just not enough. But your goal is if at any point you're talking to a sufficient amount of people, let's say it's 10 people, and every single call goes the same exact way. They all explain the same problem. They all define it in the same way. They all have similar budgets, similar issues, similar ways that they're trying to solve this problem today. If like every single time, and that was kind of where we were at with BuildBetter, we talked to another product manager, the same exact problems. We talked to another one, same exact problem. There was never a product manager we talked to that didn't fit our definition of an ICP, that didn't have the same exact problem that we were trying to focus on. And at that point, it didn't matter if I talked to 20 or if it didn't matter if I talked to 10. It was the same exact thing on every single conversation. And it was just like, okay, there's no fucking point in talking to more people. That is usually a sign that you should move past user interviews. But then it really becomes like, are they willing to pay for it right now? Like, can they actually pay for it right now? Are they willing to like give you some estimate of capital, some estimate amount of money? And the best sign that you should probably start working on something is, are they doing the thing that you want to solve today already, and it's really costly and it's really time consuming, or it's like, not making them as much money as they should. Usually a lot of B2B SaaS is in the first two camps of like, is it saving them time or saving them money? So like if you can go to a customer, like for us, for a customer success person, the first thing I would say is like, well, why do you want BuildBetter? Like there's a lot of CS tools for you, built for you, explicitly built for you. Why do you think BuildBetter? And the bad answer is like, well, I haven't tried out those other tools. I'm like, okay, then like don't like, I'm not building something for you. Try out those other tools and then come back to me. If they said, oh, I tried out all of them and they don't do XYZ, and then the question is, okay, well, how have you used those other tools, or how do you do that today? And they might say, well, we have a person at the end of the week who writes these reports, goes over all the tickets, blah, blah, blah. So then my job is to look at the market and say, how can we differentiate from a CS tool? How can we say something different or better? And then go back to them and say, we're going to build you an MVP, and it's going to do the thing that you say that you want. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. And if that gives you the thing that you want, how much time or how much money do you think this would kind of save you? And sometimes they'll give me a good estimate. They're like, well, we already spend, $50,000 a year on these CS tools and they don't provide this value. So I probably would be willing to spend less than that or equal to that. And if you could help me cancel those tools, like I wouldn't need those tools anymore because you're delivering the value, I would probably spend more than those tools because now I have like more value and I'm spending a little bit less than if I were to buy 2 tools. And so it's like, okay, that's kind of interesting. And then we would get them to sign some artificial contract. So I'd be like, okay, here's like some POC contract where you're going to commit to paying if I can commit to solving these problems for you. And they'll hopefully sign that. Maybe there'll be some, blockage or whatever. And it'd be a huge discount. Like fucking pay me $100. Like, I don't care. Can you get approval for this? Is it actually worth you putting your name on something to say that you're willing to buy it? Then from there, then we'll go build the product. And we do this all the time. Like, we have 4 core features in our product right now that do not exist that we have pre-sold to our customers. We're not selling vaporware. They know it doesn't exist, but we've told them we will build this thing. If you can sign on the dotted line, you'll spend $50,000 with us if we build it. And they're like 100% yes. And it's like, okay, cool. We'll go do that. And they're different ICPs. So like they'll come to us. We're like, we're not solving a problem. We don't want to solve your problem right now. But if we do, how much would that save you? Or how much would it do? And that's kind of how we launch and iterate towards different types of customers.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I think like, I'm like, how long are your sales cycles?
62 days, 63 days.
Okay, so your sales cycles are around 2 months. So, and as we think for this product, probably going to be around 3 months. So there's probably a lot of similar lessons there to what we can learn. So, all right, I think this is a lot of good context. I'm just going to kind of summarize where we're at. So, money, please, or me wants to validate an idea of a new product, new feature that we want to build. We've got an existing company that's working and doing really well, but we want to validate into a new space. So, how do we validate that idea? First thing is make sure you have permission, right? If your house is on fire, don't start trying to build a shed out of the back already. Like, make sure that your house and your ship is in order. And if you do have permission and you're in a good place to do that, then start to think about it. Then to actually validate, I guess, start with desktop research, get the desktop research done, understand, like, is this a good market? Is it dying? Like, you can learn a lot from good desktop research. So do a lot of that desktop research and start, at least, like pseudo validating as many of the assumptions as you can. And I guess first of all, like, write down all of your assumptions. What do you actually need to validate to get this clear? I think that's maybe one difference with doing this feature or this new product that we've done, is that we actually wrote down what are our core assumptions and how do we validate them. That's it. That's been great for us. Write down assumptions, validate them, then have enough customer conversations to start to validate the problems. That's what I was hearing, right? So you want to probably be getting to a point where you're having maybe 10 people said the same thing, right? Validating the problems. And you didn't necessarily say this explicitly, but I think the first stage is validate that these potential customers have the problems that you think they have. Get to maybe, consensus of maybe 10 people, then have another round of conversations and validate that you've got a solution that these people think will solve their problems. Like, if you had this, if we could solve this problem in this way, is that right?
I would challenge that a little bit and just say, like, I don't necessarily go into user interviews saying, I think I know what your problem is. They either come to me and say, I have this problem, can you guys solve it? And that would be like a tangential product. Or I'm going to them and saying, I want to build something for you, but I don't know what that is. And so I don't ask questions
We don't want
around
to lead the
like,
witness here.
yeah, you really don't want to lead the witness.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the problem, is like, I know a lot of people's like, I asked, 10 people if they would, like a product that sounded like this, and they all gave me the same answer of saying yes, so therefore it must be strong validation. Like, you really do have to leave it so open-ended that it's kind of like a miracle that they're all saying the same thing. It's almost like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I literally just heard that from someone else. Like, that should be your response. If you're coming in and you're like asking like yes or no, and I know this, but I'm just like, to emphasize that point, you really can't come in saying like, I'm trying to validate an assumption. You're trying to say like, I'm interested in understanding, do you even have any problems right now? And if their first response isn't like, I have this problem and it's a hair on fire and it's fucking annoying, then like, it probably isn't either the right ICP, or you probably just shouldn't be building what you're building. A lot of times companies, they fail because they found a problem, but it was a not a problem they actually gave a shit about. Like, there's a lot of problems. I have 1,000 problems. My battery dies, but like, I'm not going to try and spend $10,000 to fix my iPhone battery to last forever. I'll spend $50 maybe, but like, there's only so much I think about as like a day-to-day problem. And your job is to figure out what is your hair on fire problem right now. If it's not, then it's probably just not worth it.
That's a great clarification there. So we're not going to them saying, hey, do you have problem X? We're going saying like, hey, what problems do you have problems? What are they? And then then if we get like the kind of consensus, right, then we're like, cool, there's a problem here. What's that next step, right? How do you validate? Like, do you go to say like, okay, we know this is a problem for them. We think this solves it for them. Do you then go back and say, hey, what about this? Would that solve your problem?
I don't like showing users examples or demos. I think like users, until you hold it in your hand, it's like really hard for anyone to understand if it really provides the value. You get a lot of like, armchair feedback on your product. Oh, can the menu bar be over here? Can the button do this thing or whatever it might be? And then you give it to them, and 99% of the things that they requested were like not there. But now it's, if you don't build it, now they feel like you're not listening to them. So you're kind of in this difficult position of like, well, I asked for your feedback, but I ended up not listening to it because you don't even really know what you want.
I'm not thinking so much about like a demo. I'm still more so thinking like, hey, we're thinking about building this tool for CS. Like, we understand CS teams have this problem. We're thinking about building a tool that does this kind of thing, right? It would solve it in this way. Like, it's a software that automates tasks.
The thing I legitimately do is, and this is one of my strongest validators, is I go to the customer and I say, you already do this thing. Show me how you do it. Like, literally, like, show me how you do it right now, or send me an example of the deliverable that you want from us. And that is almost all I ever ask of them. They don't care, in my opinion, how we get there, but they want the thing that they want, and it's my job to figure out how to get there. So like, I'll go to a customer success person. They're like, I need a report I write a report every Friday that answers these 10 questions. And this is what that report looks like. I then say, send me that report right now or show it to me on the call. Because one, I don't believe you. I don't think you actually write these reports as often as you think you do. I know you probably think you do, but you don't. Or two, you do, and they're really extensive and they're really beautiful. And I want to copy this. Like, I want to figure out how to do this inside of our product. So I need to learn, are you actually doing what you say you want to do, or are you not? And then two, I need you to show me what it really looks like. The next step is go build the thing. So like, I don't often go back and forth with the customer and say like, does this look right? Or would this solve your problem, whatever it might be? Because I know that because you sent me the thing that you want.
So
You
you
sent me
validate
the
the
outcome.
problems, and then you validate how they solve it.
Yeah. Like, I need you to show me how much of a pain in the ass it is to do. Because again, 99% of people say they have a problem. They don't actually care to solve it ever. They, oh, managing our backlog is kind of a pain in the ass. Show me the last time you managed your backlog. We don't really do that, but it
Yeah.
would be nice if
So
it
you wouldn't pay for it.
happened.
If you're not really doing it, you don't need to pay for it.
Yeah. And like, it's not a priority. Clearly, your company's doing fine. You're not doing it. Why would you justify spending any money to do it? Like, it doesn't make sense. If your company's failing because you're like, our margins are 80%, our company's going to die in 5 years. Sure. Like, if you can have a cost cutting margin tool, like that would be probably sellable. But 99% of the time, if it's like typical B2B SaaS, it's like, show me what the fuck you really do. Like, show it to me. Like, screen share. I need to see it. Half the time, customers never send me a report. They never send me anything. And that to me is a strong validation. It's not that big of a deal. Like, if they don't even care enough to send me what I like, all you have to do is just send me what you already do, and I will go and build the thing to automate this, then it's probably not that big of a deal.
So I guess like we've validated their problems. We've validated how they deal with it to show it's actually a fucking problem and what the actual thing is, right? That would need to be built. But then you said that you say, sign a contract with me, it's super discounted, and and then I'll build it. Like, you, like, what are they signing for there, right? Like, what's the
It's like
sell
a
there?
letter
Because
of
like, you're not
intent.
showing them something. Like, you
You're
don't have
not.
a, yeah.
But they've given you the deliverable that they want to pay for in that conversation. So you say, I will give you this deliverable if you sign this contract in the way that you want. And that's what they're paying for. So like, that's why getting and seeing what they actually do is so valuable, because you just say, I'm going to give you the last step of that without you having to do all those previous steps if you sign this contract. And then they say, sure. And the contract's non-binding. They can opt out. It's not for a lot of money. But like, that's also, you tell them that too, like it's non-binding, it's blah blah blah. And then if they still don't sign it, like you might as well not build it. Like it's not even binding. Like who cares? So like those are often the things. And then you can go through procurement sometimes with those contracts, because sometimes they can't even sign an LOI until you go through procurement. So then you feel like, oh, there's a lot of security risks with this. There's going to be a lot of issues. There's going to be a lot of compliance questions that happen. And that's part of what you're selling, is how do I build a product that sells to these customers? If you don't think about compliance on day one, then you may not even be able to get into the room, even if you build the right product. So like that process of going through the sales motion, even though you don't have a product, can be super, super valuable. Sometimes you try to sell to smaller companies or smaller teams just because it's easier at the start, but then you're not often validating the things that the big companies have. A lot of enterprise contracts, a lot of large contracts happen before anything even got built. So it's not a crazy notion. And a lot of enterprise companies know this. Like a lot of our contracts, 50% of the contract is, we will build this for you if you sign this contract. So like, it's not a crazy notion in that way, but I think that is often what we do. We have customers who literally say, show me a mock-up of this and then I'll sign the contract. And we're like, okay, we can do that. And so like there are some negotiating in this if sometimes they like do really want it. I'm not saying like,
So see, that's the bit I was actually trying to understand that. So like,
yeah,
like sometimes they're like, we need to see something. It's like, okay, that's when you go into it though, but there's serious conversations about that. So I'm just going to bring this one to a close here. Also, I totally agree. Right? Like we've sold tons of stuff on the bid of just like, we'll build this if you sign this now, right? It makes it a whole lot like more safe to build as a startup. So, but it's great to kind of like get these steps laid out. So I'm going to repeat the steps back to you to see if I've kind of got it there. So step 1, get permission, or make sure you have permission. Step 2, validate your potential customers' problems. Step 3, validate the importance of those problems. Make sure they're actually hair on fire problems. Like they need to get solved. They're not just, yeah, it's annoying. Validate how they solve it. Are they actually doing what they're saying they're doing? And then get an LOI, a non-binding contract, and then build.
Yeah.
They're the steps?
Yeah.
All right. Well, money, please. You've been advised. I've been advised. That's actually super useful. I just took a page of notes. I'm going into course later today where I like having like a bit of a framework here to do this. So, all right, we're going to move to the next question. This next question is another like kind of just like unconventional one. I just came across this on Reddit today and I thought it'd be super fun to go through. So it's not really like an advice question, but I thought it'd be fun anyway. So this question is called, need help naming my product? Hi guys, I'm working on a file sharing service very similar to WeTransfer and needed some help coming up with a name. Only a few requirements, has decent SEO, and simple. I need to buy a domain soon to finish the MVP, but I wanted to hear what community thought. So some ideas so far: easy file transfer, and simple file transfer. And this is from OKRead2524. Now they've actually come back and done an edit of what they went with. So I just thought we could spend a couple minutes working out, could we come up with a good name for this business? So they're just doing file transfer.
I always make fun of the company names that I come up with. My last company was like a lifestyle productivity app, and that was called WeDo. This one is a tool that helps companies build products. It's called BuildBetter. I like very simple names. The concept that I often think through, or the lens that I think through, is it something that someone naturally says throughout their day? And is it something that kind of like naturally gets thought of throughout their day? Like no one says Apple or Windows throughout their day, but they also kind of do. They talk up, they buy apples at the store, they have Windows in their life, they look out of Windows. And as much as it might be completely unrelated to software, it's a very common thing, a concept that people think about. So if you can associate your concept with something that's often thought about, it's actually kind of a win. So I think like, if you call your company Lenovo, what the fuck you have to know the name Lenovo. Like you have to know that name. There's no association, there's no brand recognition. You have to brand that as much as you can. If you call your company Apple, I probably say Apple 10,000 times a year, completely unrelated to the company. And so even if I'm, yeah, maybe a lot less, but like, I love apples too. There's like sugar bee apples. They're amazing. I love them. But I say Apple a lot throughout the day, whether it's in a recipe, at a restaurant, whatever it might be. And so when I see the word apple from a company, I'm familiar with it. It feels safe, feels comfortable. I like apples as a fruit, so I feel comfortable with that. Like if someone called it broccoli, I'd probably be like, fuck that shit. So like I think you want to commonly pick a word that people kind of get associated with. I think Build Better is if you go to any company that sells products to product teams or even like software companies in general, you'll probably see the slogan Build Better somewhere on their copy. And what's special to us is that we get that free name recognition basically. So like when you go to a company that's maybe not even a competitor, but like a something substitutional or something like that, and you see like help your company build better products or build better analytics or build better whatever it might be, you know the word build better, you saw the company build better, you're now thinking like, oh, isn't there a company called build better, or I remember seeing an ad from a company called build better. So it's easy for us to kind of hack on to a lot of these slogans that every other company already has, and that's kind of why we picked it. It's like it's a really easy word and really easy concept for people to remember. So I like WeTransfer because like WeTransfer is kind of says it. Are you Googling like how do I transfer this? And then WeTransfer kind of makes sense. The we part not so great, but like the transfer part is really great. Versus like mega, like mega, great product, but like no one thinks of the word mega. Dropbox is like somewhere in like probably like B tier category. But I would say if you're making like a file transfer service, I would really focus on like the differentiator that you're like he is focusing on. So like let's say it was like a peer-to-peer transferring service, it'd be like peer transfer or something like that. Like just picking something that says the two keywords that would be unique enough for someone to identify with your product. He's not going to win against WeTransfer on SEO. So like SEO is a failed game for him already if he's going to pick a name that is so Googleable that you can't differentiate to the competitors. So like he has to pick a thing that's Googleable but differentiated. So like if you do peer-to-peer transfer, maybe peer transfer is actually a better name for you, even though it's less Googleable. It's much higher ranked if someone says peer-to-peer transfer and you're peertransfer.com. So like
I
yeah,
guess as well, like pretty much anything they choose, like the suggestions were easy file transfer and simple file transfer would also already have paid ads on them for WeTransfer.
it would be
Like,
impossible. I mean, again, you can sometimes hack SEO for a short period of time where like if you do like PDF convert to JSON.com, like sure, like you'll probably win out on that than not. But you are going to get a shit ton of ads because that is what it is, and they'll like be very targeted and very focused. Maybe your product is free, and so you say like free peertransfer.com or something like that, and like you can try and hack and try and get cheap customers, but that's never fun. You really do want to try and find the niche that people are looking at. So you can go to a tool called like answerthepublic.com, and you can see what long tail word searches people have. So if you go to like answerthepublic.com and you search transfer, you might say, what questions are people asking about transferring files? What hypothetical tools are people looking up when they think of transferring files? And then you kind of want to create a matrix of like, here's what people are searching for, but actually doesn't have a lot of search volume for. And then here's what we can probably name our product as. And you might even not want it. But I honestly, I couldn't even come up with a name without knowing the differentiated thing about their product. Do they say what the differentiated thing is?
no.
So like, fuck them. Like, I think like if they're just making like, I have a side project and it's a file transfer app, and like this one's different because it's new and free. Like I don't know. Like, good luck. But if you really do have a differentiated experience where like this one is X, Y, or Z, just name that into your product and like try and get that as visible as possible. Because people trust products that say exactly what you do. Like if you go to Amazon and you say like USB to USB and you find one that says works with iPhone, all of them fucking work with iPhone. But one says works with iPhone and the others don't. 9 times out of 10, an average consumer is going to buy the one that says works with iPhone
Yeah,
because it's
I would
like,
do that,
yeah,
even though I fucking know.
every USB-C cable is going to work with an
They're
Android and
like,
iPhone the
just in
same.
case they're
Just
different.
in case. Maybe there's like a special chip in this one that works just for an iPhone that's different. Like you won't even know why, but you're like, well, that one says exactly what I'm looking for. So that must be the right one for me. So like that is why you kind of want to have these long, tail ends. And you may even sell the same product 3 times where you say like, USB-C cable for Android, USB-C cable for Samsung, whatever it might be. And people will buy those products just for that specific keyword recognition. So like I personally think what he should do is figure out what his differentiator is and put that in the name somewhere somehow, um, and then like hopefully that will stick.
Your answer was not what I expected. It was a genuinely good answer, right? I was just thinking like, let's just come up with fucking shitty, funny names, but that was actually genuinely valuable. It's funny though because it kind of goes against a lot of the advice that I always give, which is like when people tell me like, oh, I'm starting a business, I don't know what to call it. I'm like, who fucking cares? Your business is probably going to fail regardless. Like just the odds of that, and like it's so much about execution, right? So like just don't worry about the name. Like just like you can always change if it becomes a really shit name, but just pick something that like especially like for a business name, like a business name, I just feel like doesn't matter. That being said, like I think Build Better is a genuinely good name, and we've even chatted about this offline. Like I love the name Build Better because it's catchy and because it says what you help people do, which I love. But like I think there's tons of businesses right that are just successful that have shit names. Like Amazon's not a good name, and like and
And
but
doesn't check off any of the boxes of like
yeah,
people
but like
think about it, they talk
extremely
about
good
it.
businesses, like will outperform a name anyway, and like you will build your own brand around that regardless. So I think at the end of the day, you can if you have a great name or a shit name, if you don't execute well, it actually doesn't matter. So to get started with it, it doesn't matter for a name. But if you can get like tick these things that Spencer Shang, oh, fuck Shang, I cannot talk today. That Spencer is saying today. I think that makes sense, right? Like BuildBetter is such a good example of a good name because like it's catchy, it was available, and it does say what you do. But I think that's kind of rare to come up with names that are that good, in my opinion.
I think they're like if we look at like let's say Amazon versus Whole Foods, like there is instant brand equity when you call a company Whole Foods. Like I don't even have to, if someone never went to the groceries Whole Foods, they could probably discern what type of food and product and what even price point that type of product is. And in that way, they have such a leg up over Amazon. Amazon has to build equity into their brand because no one fucking knows what Amazon means. But the difference is that Amazon, once they have brand equity, like that is theirs. They own it. No one else can even confuse it. No one else can say we have Whole Foods here. Like Whole Foods doesn't own the concept of Whole Foods. Amazon owns the concept of Amazon. There's good and bad with that. Like the bad part of Amazon is that they can also tarnish their name and people don't really know, does Amazon represent good products, bad products, okay products? Who knows? That might change over time. And that's probably part of what they were trying to do. Like they could have called their thing bookstore online, but they didn't. And they were able to grow outside of it. Whole Foods selling, cables probably doesn't make a fucking lot of sense. So like Whole Foods kind of branded themselves in, but they got free equity from that. They were like, we're going to brand ourselves as this Whole Foods company, and people are instantly going to know what we have, but we can't sell anything else. Like if BuildBetter started selling like, I don't even know. Like if we started, there's BuildBetter has a
Works for
lot of
almost
potential.
everything. If you start selling groceries,
Yeah, if we started selling groceries, like it wouldn't even make sense. If we started selling construction software, that makes sense. But like there's certain things that it's just like that just doesn't make sense because like the brand equity doesn't just transfer like that. So there's just like if we started selling sales software, people would be like, what the like build better, but sales software? Like, I guess maybe, but like selling to product teams, like, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So I do think there is this natural proclivity people have that you do have to kind of think about when you brand your company.
yeah. All right, so I think we actually kind of sit on different sides of the equation, but I do think I've probably taken a couple of steps towards you on the spectrum here. So, to summarize this is that, you know, I think you would agree. At the end of the day, like the success of your business is not dependent on your name. So if you do a good business and you have a real problem you're solving and you have a great niche and differentiator, like that's the most important thing. And name is like very, very secondary to any of those things. Um, but when you are thinking about a name, if you go with a name like a Whole Foods, right, or a Build Better that explains what you do, or your niche or who you're serving, you do get built-in brand equity, built-in understanding. And that's what BuildBetter did. And then on the other side of the spectrum, my company is Vigo, right? It doesn't say anything about it. It's a great story because Vigo is short for Vygotsky, which is a psychologist which came up with the theory which we've built our
You're
business on.
killing me.
Exactly, but now it's got a strong brand in the in the industry, and we've built the brand equity. But for a long time, it
And
had
no one can
nothing,
take that
right?
away.
Exactly. So you just got to pick kind of what goes for you. So if you prefer catchy, interesting names, go for that. If you prefer very clear names, go for that as well. They've both got their benefits to them, I think. And also, if you go for something really specific, right, like simple file transfer, you've got one thing your company can do ever under that name. And for example, if you go with something like BuildBetter, which is like kind of in the middle, right? BuildBetter doesn't. It's not a name like AI PM PID tool, right? so BuildBetter can grow, and it has that flexibility to grow. So that gives you that value as well. So bit of advice there, take your pick of what works for you, but there are definitely benefits going either way. But I think BuildBetter is, in my mind, like right perfectly in the middle, right? It's not a Whole Foods. It doesn't explain exactly what you do, but it is like great sentiment. You get the free kind of branding of it. So
Yeah, it's gonna be similar to but like I think it's gonna be similar to like something like Salesforce. Like if you read any book about sales teams, they'll say Salesforce 1,000 times, but they're not talking about the company. And like that's a really interesting position to be in. It should almost be illegal. It's almost like Kleenex in that way. But yeah, there's like some really interesting name hacks for sure.
yeah, all right. Well, okay, Reed, you've been advised. And we have so many more questions, but we are so far over because Spencer and I had an hour booked, and we just chatted for fun for an hour before we started recording. So we'll move to the last section of the show, which is plugs. So tell me, mate, what's going on? What do you want to plug at the moment?
Oh, I mean, this has definitely been like a very exciting year. We finally launched our product like out of beta, but effectively our core product today is we take every single piece of data from inside and externally of a company, usually like internal meetings, customer calls, you know, obviously like scoping chats, engineering stand-ups, and then of course all customer feedback, sales calls, anything like that. And then we process that with our signals, and then we turn those into reports at the end of the day, end of the week, end of the month, in whatever workflows you want. So like that just came out, and we've been like really, really pushing hard on like what is the thing at the end of the week that you need to know as a product person for you to be able to move forward in the business. And sometimes it's like, what are the top 10 objections that our sales team is running into every week? Or what are the top 10 customer feedback issues? Or what are the blockers inside of my team that I'm not aware of that I can be proactively addressing? Or maybe looking over the last quarter, what blockers keep coming up inside of our company that I should probably start paying attention to as like a manager or founder. So that's something we just launched at BuildBetter, and we're really excited about it. And a lot of like larger teams have been really excited about it. And then next year we're working on like dashboards and like more integrations and like more workflows and stuff like that. But if that's interesting to you, you can check it out at buildbetter.ai. We've always been debating if we should ever buy the .com, but it's like owned by a construction company. Like I said, we could always pivot into that space, but I do think there would be a trademark dispute on that one. But yeah, so buildbetter.ai, and it's available totally free to sign up. And we're here to help along the way on your product journey.
Love it. I love BuildBetter. Absolutely love it. But more than BuildBetter, I love Spencer just released merch for his business as well. So I just bought this online during the kind of pre-chat that Spencer
We
and I had.
have some incredible merchandise. I'm going to be 10 times more excited about this stuff because I love what we have. We have the PMF hat, which is for the knowing. We also have a no hat. If you're a product person, you're in the know. And then we have the VR, crypto, AI, each crossed out to the final one. High quality stuff. It's like really good. Again, name BuildBetter. We got to find some great shit. And then we also have like a bunch of other stuff that just kind of like pokes fun at things that product people say, like it's in the backlog or it worked on my machine, stuff like that will probably make you chuckle. You can give to an engineer. We're not trying to make any money off of it, so we basically sell it at cost, but it is incredibly fun, and we're really excited to launch it. And we usually give it away to people who book demos with us too. So if you like it, just let us know on a call, and we'll
Just
probably
book a
give you
demo.
away. Yeah.
Yeah, I just bought some stuff because I thought it was funny. Yeah. So yeah, my plug today is just that: get Spencer's merch because I think it's fun. And that's it. So thank you to everyone who writes in with other problems. And that's it. Well, that one last thing is that if you want to book a call with me, as always, I've got a booking link in my calendar. Go to the show notes and let's jump on a call. I'm always interested to speak to people listening to the show. So this has been another episode of Do As I Say, Not As I Did. We'll see you all next week.